9/11 for me is personal. I'll never forget how I felt, what I saw, and the emotions of that day. Thinking about it now, and I can't believe it's been 20 years, it feels like yesterday. It's very personal. I grew up in New York City, born and raised in the lower section of Manhattan. I was walking distance to the towers growing up. I knew a young lady who died. She worked in Windows of the World. So it's real. It's a tangible pain. It's something that I experienced. I remember the eerie silence. I remember seeing the towers in smoke. I remember receiving an air filter because my grandmother and I lived so close to the towers. It's personal. I remember spending time shopping in that area, right near the towers, beneath the towers in the underground mall that was crushed and destroyed. So it's real. It's very real and very personal to me. It's eerie how it feels like it's happening 20 years later. And that's not for sentimental value. That's a real thing. Like, it's not just because we're celebrating this 20th anniversary. It feels like it was yesterday. It adds to my story and my experience. I'll never forget 9/11. For me, it'll always be personal.
20 years ago, America stopped. We stopped and stood together as evil knocked on our door, and our lives were forever changed. 20 years ago, we witnessed the extremes of human capacity. In the early morning, we saw mankind's terrible ability to destroy. In the hours that followed, we witnessed the opposite. We, Americans, observed our own collective instincts to protect, comfort, and come together. In the 20 years since the attacks on our nation, over 100 Utahns have lost their lives in defense of this nation. Over 100 Utahns solemnly swore an oath to support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies. Those Utahns upheld that oath with their lives. Utahns like Marine Corporal Adam Galvez from Salt Lake City, and Army Staff Sergeant Aaron Butler of Monticello, and Major Brent Taylor of North Ogden. They and so many other brave Utahns lost their lives while wearing the uniform of the United States, many of them motivated to protect our nation from terror on our own soil. On that September day, we also learned of the heroism that took place on United Flight 93. This plaque right here in the U.S. Capitol hangs in honor of those passengers and crew of a hijacked aircraft who said no. They said no to terror, and they stood up to evil. Their battle cry was, "Let's roll." They thwarted the plot. They gave their lives to do so. They banded together and laid down their lives for others. They are heroes. In the hours, days, weeks, and months following September 11th, unity was abundant. We were one team with one purpose: to heal. We learned that healing comes faster when we have others on whom to lean, when we have others with whom we can grieve. We must never forget the heroes that day. We must never forget the lessons we learned, and we must never forget to honor those who were taken from us. We honor them in our deeds, in our faith, in our friendships, and in our memories. Never forget.
As terrible as all that was, what I do remember that I thought was good was that all of Americans came together. We were all Americans. We were no longer Democrat or Republican. We were Americans. There were flags being flown at all the homes. There were flags being flown on people's vehicles. And I remember the unity that we felt as Americans during that time.
The 9/11 Day of Service is a nationally recognized day of service in which individuals are able to volunteer their time to recognize and honor those that we lost on that tragic day. This year is the 20th anniversary of the September 11th tragedy, and it gives us a unique opportunity to reflect on the events that happened 2 decades ago, and also gives us an opportunity to reflect on the events of today. And once again, we have seen how first responders put themselves in risk, put themselves in harm's way to help people and our communities and help keep all of us safe. Thousands of Americans of all ages and backgrounds will participate in service projects on 9/11. We encourage you to find a way to serve on September 11th. Remember, even a small act of service is a giant act of patriotism.
AmeriCorps members and AmeriCorps Seniors volunteers are making critical impact in the community, addressing important issues, helping to solve obstacles and crises, and making a difference that will last in this generation and for generations to come.
My military service really centered me on community service. I learned very quickly in my career as a young airman that you can do a lot more than you think, and not just for the moment, but for the future. You have to center yourself not in the moment, but on what happens in the big picture. So I learned to do that, both as a enlisted man and as an officer. There's a lot bigger picture, a lot more important things going on than just you yourself. That helps a lot in setting the foundation for serving others.
For me, it has to do with a larger humanity, and also being part of a larger thing as well. In other words, people have been doing what I've been doing since the dawning of time. This is all what we should do. I think perhaps in patriotic terms, it makes us stronger as a society. Perhaps if anybody observes what I'm doing who's younger, they can see, okay, maybe this is how to be. But I'm not out to save the world. I'm just out to help this person or that person in my own small way.
And a couple days ago, I was standing in the hall of school waiting for my grandchildren to come out, and this great big boy came barreling down the hallway, and he was dressed in his football uniform, and he grabbed me and hugged me and called me grandma. And then I realized it was one of the kids I'd had way back, like 8 years ago, and his family had a really bad tragedy close to Christmas when he was in the 5th grade, and we really bonded because I just, instead of reading with him, I just listened to him, and that really helped me. Whenever he does see me, he always remembers that time.
To me, being in the military and then doing this, I knew how some people acted. I can relate to my fellow Marine servicemen, and then I've learned how to talk to non-military people too. It's really neat. This I don't know if it's a job, a calling, or whatever. It's fun to talk to these people from other places. I enjoy taking them out, serving them. That's the big thing to do, is let them know that you're willing to help them out. You can get good rapport no matter if you treat these guys just good, and they'll treat you good.
If you're feeling miserable, if you're feeling lonely, if you're feeling you have no value, go serve, and you will capture all of those things, and they'll be gone. You will, when you're other oriented, you don't focus on you, and the misery goes away, and the loneliness goes away, and you have purpose.
I think 9/11 Day projects have impacted our community in a significant way and impacted people personally. I work primarily with students, and many of them are not familiar with 9/11 events on a personal level, and by offering 9/11 projects, we can explain why it is a National Day of Service and Remembrance, and that on that day, 20 years ago, that a handful of people impacted the world in a lasting way, in a negative way, and that through our actions, we each have the capacity to impact the world in a positive way through our actions, and I think that that's significant. We can each make a difference in our community. Several years ago, I heard a speaker who was talking about 9/11, and he talked about first responders and how important first responders were that day, and he shared the idea of we can each be a first responder in our community, that there are a lot of issues and people and areas of concern in our community that need first responders. We can respond when people are hungry and our food bank needs support. We can respond when kids need tutors. We can respond when there are cleanup or environmental projects. We each have that capacity to be a first responder and to really impact our community in a positive way. This 9/11 Day, we encourage everyone in our community, everyone throughout our community, throughout our country, to take the opportunity to take a stand and to be a first responder, to make a difference in our community. Together, we can help build a strong, healthy community, improve our own neighborhood, our own circling out into our community and across the country to make our communities healthy places.